Hello and welcome to the beti Be Skinny program. No more diets for you. Today's show is going to be on nutrition tracking. It's one of my favorite things to do. I find it really interesting. Before we kick off, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the little bell for notifications and give it a thumbs up if you like the video. Okay, so let's kick off. Eating right. Now that you've been doing the program for a while, it's time to track what we are eating to ensure that we are covering all our nutritional requirements. So maybe you've done this before or maybe you haven't, but it's a really good idea to just check. It's like, a checkpoint. How are we going? You think you're eating okay, but are you really eating okay? We're going to check that. It is important to cover all our nutritional requirements that our body needs. Now, I stress the word needs because our body is actually capable of producing a lot of what it needs, like cholesterol and protein. Given the building blocks, it can put it all together and make it happen. But things that it can't produce are things like essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, vitamins and minerals, and of course getting our macronutrients. So putting that all together, and our body can make do, but we need to ensure that it has all that nutrition. Now, when I say macronutrients, I am talking protein, fat, and carbs. Now, you probably know that there is a massive focus on just macronutrients, and I hear this a lot because most diets are based on macros. So they're saying, how your macros, you're doing, 30% carbs or 10% carbs. Low carb or low fat or high carb, high protein, but it's actually more detailed than that. So macronutrients not coupled with the right essential nutrients will lead to health issues. Like if you don't get enough vitamin C, we all know the outcome of that. It's scurvy, iodine deficiency, thyroid issues. So you do need to have more than just your macronutrients. And, we're looking at things like paleo, which is really meat-based. And you've got and there's also vegan paleo as well, which is quite high fat. There's your high carb, low carb I mentioned before, or high fat. There's many variations. And there's also the calorie, most of the sort of summer slimming programs, the calorie restriction programs. Now, all these, if you look at what they are, the question you really need to ask yourself is, can I sustain it? And if you've done it before and you've been successful, then you wouldn't be doing this program, would you? I don't know, you tell me, maybe I'm wrong. But let's look at a day. Now, measuring, we're going to be using Chronometer. So go to Chronometer, spelled CRONOMETER.com. We'll be using Chronometer to measure. Download the app or visit the website so you can get the app. It's really easy to use. I would like you to add your food for one typical day. And there's a particular symbol, so you can see that it's a conical flask. I know, I did chemistry, so little conical flask symbol. You want that because that is the one that has actually been analysed well. Whereas some of the others have not. They're just, like I picked one and it was a 4B mix, a local 4B mix, and it didn't have all the analysis that I needed. The aim is to form good habits rather than track your food daily. So I'm not asking you to do this every day. Absolutely not. Just a one-off, and we can do that, every now and then. We're tracking our food now to see what we're typically getting and what we're typically not getting. So when you do this, you'll start seeing quite evidently if you're missing something. So I'm going to go through a typical entry, which is for a whole day. I've not included any vitamins, supplements. I have not included any water, and I have not included any spices or any sort of seasonings. I haven't added any of that, just the food. And it is vegan, by the way. So if you're eating meat, you put meat in here as well. But speaking of meat, you do not have any processed meat, and you limit the amount of meat you eat. So you want, if you are choosing to eat meat, small amount, and so in other words, not every day, and you don't have processed meats. This is including fish. Do not have processed fish. So no canned tuna. So looking at this typical entry, you have, so I've put 2 cups of almond milk, and I'll have that with my tea. And I've got, you can clearly see 2 big meals. So you got your mixed vegetables, chickpeas and potato in the order they should be eaten. Okay, so we start with the veggies, then the chickpeas, and then the potato. And then I've got the next meal, spinach, kale, and tofu, black beans, and rice. So they're pretty big meals. So you've got 2 cups of veggies and a cup of chickpeas and 2 medium potatoes. That's massive. That's for lunch. And then for dinner, you've got the cup of spinach and kale and 150 grams of tofu, which is a lot. So you could stir fry that or bake it. So I haven't added any, as I mentioned, I haven't added any seasoning. So this is just looking at the pure food. Black beans, half a cup, and a cup of brown rice. Now I've also added an orange and some chia seeds in there as well. Now take note, this is a sort of more health vegan rather than a junk vegan. So, I'm not saying that all vegan diets are fantastic, because some junk vegan diets, they're not that great. So just be mindful of that. So I'm not saying you must go vegan. No, I'm saying you need to have good unprocessed food, and it should be plant-based. So majority of your food's coming from plants. Okay. Now, with that typical entry, let's see what the analysis was. So if you look at the protein there's a list of these interesting words, and they're the essential amino acids. So they're the amino acids that our body does not make. So we're looking at this, and I'm pretty much covered except for histidine, pretty much covered. But I've got most of histidine, which is great. Now let's look at the lipids, the trans fat. Now that trans fat, because you shouldn't have any trans fat in your diet, so anything will come up as red. That trans fat came up as big from the chia seeds. Now, usually they don't have trans fats. It's coming up as 0, but I don't know why so you can see it's got 0 and then it's got the trans fat. So I'm not sure what's going on exactly there. Omega-3, bumper, but omega-6 is quite low. So if you want to get a better omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, hemp seeds are pretty good for that. So, maybe instead of chia seeds, I should have sprinkled with hemp seeds. I've got both. I can alternate. And no cholesterol. Thank you, I don't need it. So, which is pretty good. Now, in terms of lipids, it's gone straight to red, because it's saying I've gone to 124% of my daily requirements, but it's 24 grams, so it's what I've set it at. I don't really measure it that much, and I don't really, do I care? No, I'm more concerned, to be quite honest here, with the omega-3 and omega-6. And what's being highlighted for me is that my omega-6 is a little bit low. So maybe I need to bump that up. So I'm looking at, okay, hemp seeds maybe. Okay. So that's how we start thinking when we're looking at this. We're looking at the essentials. Let's look at the vitamins. I'm pretty much covered, which is great. So vitamin B's looking good, except for B5, but still 93%, pretty high, pretty good. But look at that, B12, 0. Now, this is a very important thing. If you are vegan, it is common knowledge that you do need a B12 supplement. B12 actually is made by bacteria from dirt, and that's why you can find it in meat, and specifically in animals that have been grass-fed, because they're eating from the dirt directly. So see how that makes sense? But if you're eating beef that's not grass-fed, you may not be having B12 unless the beef is injected with B12, because they do supplement livestock. I take a sublingual B12 supplement, which is just a spray under the tongue. It's got a nice fresh minty taste. You can find it at the vitamin stores. It is fantastic. And the other one there is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, you probably already know, does get produced by our skin having exposure to the sun. Obviously, I'm not considering this is just food-based here. So if you're not getting out and about, and of course being in Australia, we're always, slip, slop, slapping, again, a vitamin D supplement, your doctor will probably recommend that anyway. So if you're finding that you're vegan and vitamin D, maybe talk to your doctor about supplementing before you start. It's always a good idea to do that. Minerals. I think I'm rocking it with the minerals. A lot of manganese there, but I think I'm rocking it until we get to some potassium. I'm going to count the 99%, by the way. I'm going to count that, and 92%. I'm going to count that. That's pretty good. Now, sodium. Now, before I did mention that I'm not including seasoning. Now, I do use Bragg's liquid aminos. That does have sodium in it. I'm not too worried about sodium. So even though it says 54% here, if I added a teaspoon of Bragg's, I'm sure I would have covered it. I could do that experiment in future. But yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about sodium. So summary, track 1 day of food. And you can do this periodically. You can say, oh, I'm going to do this once a month. So if you do it the first time and you're spectacular, just say, okay, just keep eating the way I'm eating. But if you're finding you're struggling with something, like whether it's, you're not getting enough of an amino acid or a vitamin or your omega-3 and omega-6, if you're struggling with anything like that, do then try it, like modify your diet to accommodate the foods that you do need to incorporate, or speak to your doctor if you think you need to supplement, if you're vegan, for instance, or if you think you're working in an office and you don't get enough vitamin D, please talk to your doctor first. And then do this every few months. Once you've settled and you've got your groove, you will only do this every few months. Please don't do this every day. You don't need to. I would rather you focus on eating well, cooking well, preparing well, rather than doing this and tracking it, because this could take, if you want to, go for it, but it's quite a bit of effort. Now, to level up, really simple. You enter 1 day, send through the screenshots. And the good thing is we can help you with any food or any nutrient that we see lacking. We can recommend some food that you can add to your diet. Submit via the Level Up page. And if you do have any questions, you can also ask via the Facebook bSKINNY group. So you can always do that as well. So it's time to do this and have a great time with Chronometer. It's quite interesting. So just 1 day, you'll find it really interesting. Thank you so much. And it's Betty PT signing out.